Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us at this for this webinar, Public Relations for Agencies. Do you get a professional or do it yourself? My name is Darren Woolley. I'm the CEO of Trinity P3, and with me today I have two PR professionals who I'll introduce in a moment. But first, let's do some housekeeping. First of all, again, thank you for joining us. We're planning to finish this in 1 hour at 1:30 p.m. So please stay through to the end. You can ask questions at any time, but please use the Q&A function rather than the chat function so that we can actually keep track of your questions, and we'll try and answer them as we're going through. We're recording this session for future use. So if you want to go back and watch it, or you have to leave early, please don't. But if you do, you can catch up with what happened at the end. And at the end, we'll be taking some polls. So we hope you stay to actually have your say on the results of those polls. Now, as far as our speakers today, we have two terrific PR practitioners. We've got Katy, Denis, CEO of Extollo, and Miss Jules Brooks, head honcho for Handle Your Own PR. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you.
Look, this is a terrific opportunity because I think a lot of agencies really struggle and a lot of small businesses struggle with PR. But the two of you, I think, have had the experience and the expertise to actually bring a view on the role of PR in building businesses, but also take a slightly different approach. So hopefully today we're going to explore the role of PR, but then ways of implementing it, and our audience can then decide what works best for them. So I'm going to start with a very general question, but for you, Katy, and that is, what role does public relations play for advertising agencies, but also businesses general in building business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did cover this off, but thank you again for asking me to be part of this. I'm really honoured for the opportunity, but also to say that I am quietly terrified because I'm used to pushing my clients out the front. So I do have notes here. I'm hoping not to refer to them, but if I do, it's just purely being very fearful. So yes, definitely PR can play a very important role in advertising agencies' new business development, but also, as you said, beyond ad agencies. So I work with a range of different agencies, from voice experience, social media, experiential, a whole range, and as well industry bodies in the past, media owners, and CEOs and business leaders who want to boost their own personal brands. Really the role that PR plays comes down to business objectives. They can be very different depending on the particular client. For example, when I first worked with Leo Burnett, very much the objective was to boost the profile of the work that it and still do exceptional work, but that wasn't being promoted very much at the time when I started working with them. So, and as well to promote their leadership team beyond their CEO, who had a fairly big profile at the time. And another client took a year off from PR and any awards or any sorts of promotion. So the objective there was really to come out of the gates, all guns blazing, and to really sort of saturate the market with their brand, to remind people and potential clients of their existence after their strategic decision to take a year off and sort their sort of, back end rather than going outwards. So yeah, it really comes down to key business objectives. But the way that I work with my clients and my business works with my clients is that it's around business development, profile building, and also client retention. So really that involves creating strategic PR plans that focus on news announcements. So that can be new business wins, very important to communicate that out to the market. Exceptional new hires, showing that your agency is attracting the best in the business is always really important. New work, definitely publicising new work, case studies, award wins and the like. And then thought leadership is also really, really important. So, where my clients mightn't have news to go out every single week, they can definitely be providing thought leadership in the form of opinion pieces or speaking at industry events. Those sorts of things are really important. Anyone can really send out a press release, but when you're actually providing exceptional content to the publications and showing your thought leadership and expertise in your field. That's definitely an important part of the PR programs that I put together for my clients. And then client retention. So that's really important to, sorry.
But Katy, I was just thinking, I'm glad you're not referring to your notes, because we could be here for an hour if you have your notes. But first of all, as a PR practitioner, you're not showing any nerves at all. It's amazing that you actually feel nervous, but your presentation, you seem very confident and in control of the subject matter. So thank you. Jules, one of the things that Katy was talking about was some of it felt like it's businesses using PR in a more tactical sense, even though she mentioned a strategic plan. You know, where do you see PR fitting? Is it a strategic or is it a approach, or is it a tactical approach to building business?
Well, I guess for me, PR is the best way of getting your name out there and building awareness, because you're getting that third-party endorsement. So to me, it works better or the same as word of mouth. So if somebody tells you that an agency is fantastic, then you're definitely going to have a good look at them if it's someone that you trust. And in the same way, if a media outlet that you trust is featuring an article by someone or about someone, then immediately you assume that they've gone out to the best of the best and they're only featuring them because they're the best in their field. One of the things that I think that agencies don't do very well, and this sort of is across the board from what I've seen, is that they seem to be doing a lot of publicity into their own industry media rather than getting out there and letting other people and other businesses know that they are available and what they stand for. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we see the trade press filled with PR pieces talking largely to other agencies.
I'm hearing a funny noise in the background. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for me, it's that third-party endorsement. It's positioning you as an expert in your field. It's sharing case studies that are not about you and how great you are, but about your client and how fabulous they are, and how you've been able to help them build up that awareness themselves. So in terms of strategy or tactics, I think it's got to be part of the strategy. It is obviously tactical as well, but really your overarching thing should be that you need to keep building awareness. You need to position yourself as a leader in your field, and you need to let people know what you stand for, because there's a lot of agencies out there and you're competing with all of them. So you want to be known for what it is that you do, what you excel at, not that you're just an agency that can do everything for everyone.
And Katy, do you find agencies generally really understand how to work with PR and using PR? Or is it something that they need to be educated on? Because I know a lot of agencies are inclined to think that they've got this PR thing under control.
No, generally in my experience, they do understand PR, and they also understand the value of it, because essentially they see their competitors out there doing it, and it's a really competitive market, our industry. So yeah, generally I have found that they do, but I do still run into questions like, do we get to see the article before it's published? And, oh, can we have that taken down because we don't like the headline? So things like that, where, you just have to remind them that, PR is not guaranteed, and it can also be a risk when you're putting yourself out there. It's not like advertising where you can 100% manage the message. Obviously, we do our best to guide the journalists and to try and get a positive message across. But sometimes, unfortunately, that just doesn't happen. So it's just an education process around those sorts of ins and outs of PR.
Yeah, because Jules, yeah.
I was just going to say, I actually, my experience of agencies is that I don't think that they really do. I think they know kind of what PR is at a really top level, but I recently had the opportunity to go into a massive ad agency and talk to their creatives and their media buyers, and I was blown away by how little they know really about PR and how it works. And one of the things that really surprised me is that they were saying, well, our understanding of PR is either you need a celebrity attached, or otherwise you need to, create a video on YouTube that goes viral enough that the news media picks it up. And that is clearly not the only way that you can do PR. And people don't realise that anyone can ring a journalist and how badly the media is looking for content. And I think that's the message that I'm constantly putting out there, that the media, you are doing the media a favour if you give them a story. And with what's happening these days, and I know Katy would totally agree, everyone is being let go, and particularly now because of COVID as well. So these media outlets don't have hundreds of journalists that you can give them an idea and they'll go off and write the story. So what they really rely on these days is a written article, as if you are the journalist and you are writing in the third person about this agency or about this business, and give them tips, give them advice. And that combination will make you catnip, really, to the media. And then on top of that, super important is getting an image out there as well. An image to illustrate your story.
Just for everyone attending this webinar, if you want to ask a question as we go along, please use the Q&A function. In fact, we've just got our first question come through. And that is, we often try to get media outside our industry publications, such as the Fin Review or Forbes or other key publications like that. We keep abreast of what they're publishing and have tried to get cut through with opinion pieces. Some of us have worked in PR in the past. It's a good long question. So to get to the actual question, that is, how do we get into these publications when we don't have the time to spend developing the contacts and relationships that often get you in? We understand they are hungry for content, but haven't been able to get in. And look, this is a big issue for advertising, because advertising by the main business media is seen as sort of a little bit like the colouring in department, that it's not business, it's something else out there. So do either of you have some advice on how you can actually get through into business? I'll start with you, Jules.
Okay, I'd love to answer this
one.
one.
I was going to say it's perfect for you.
Because literally in that question is the problem, which is everybody wants to be in the Fin Review and everybody wants to be in the business pages of The Age and Smart Company. But that's actually that is not the only place that your customers are. So I would encourage, if you are chasing retail clients, that you go into retail news or you go into the industry media for that industry and explain to them the value of advertising, how it can work, how to pick a great advertising agency, 5 things people didn't know, 4 things you need to prepare before you go and choose an agency or whatever. Same thing if you want to go into the banking industry. Don't always assume that they're reading the Fin Review. They're also reading Australian Banking and Finance. Marketing managers are reading Marketing Magazine. And you know, like every industry has either got a newsletter or a magazine that goes out to its members, and those are the ones who are really hungry for the content, because they're the ones who haven't got loads of journalists. For instance, I did an article for Darren this week that's going to go up on the blog, but the travel agency industry has a newsletter that goes out to 65,000 travel agents every week or every fortnight, and they are desperate for content. So that's the kind of media that I'm talking about you getting in. Yes, the Fin Review, keep plugging away, but you know, you're going to get one story every 2 years, and I'm talking about you getting coverage every single month. So you've got to think about the industries that your clients are in and that your potential clients are in or that your customers are in, and then go out to those industries with information that will help those people.
Fantastic. Katy, do you want to add to that at all?
I definitely agree with all of that, and I feel the pain of trying to break into those you know, top tier publications. It is very tricky, even if you do have a good relationship with them. Essentially, you know, they're bombarded with so many news items and opinion pieces, and you know, each day, and so it is tricky to crack those. 100% relationship with those particular journalists is important, because your email or pitch will go to the top of the pile. So, you know, pre-COVID, I would 100% be saying it is worth taking the time to go for a coffee with one of those journalists. It's all down to relationships, and it's not just barraging them with emails.
Okay, so here's a follow-up. Oh, sorry, Jules.
I just want to disagree, and I know you'll love that I'm disagreeing, Katy, and it's not a hard disagree, but I don't actually think that it is all about relationships. I think it's all about the quality of the story. And I think any journalist will take any story from anyone if it's a really good, powerful story that will help their readers. And then
Oh,
let it 2 cents worth.
I do
sorry,
have to-
that goes without saying.
and-
Sorry, yeah.
I do have to agree, because what I've found is that they usually, the ones that they're targeting, like the Fin Reviews and the business journalists, are wanting news stories. And a lot of what the agencies actually have as a story is not necessarily news. It's not something that is compelling right in this minute, and it doesn't have the consequence for the business world. So that's their filter. And what I've found is that you might get one in 5 or 10 years because you happen to hit the right story at the right time in the right context. But otherwise, you're spending 4 or 5 years just maintaining the relationship, waiting for that breakthrough. There's been a follow-up question, and specifically around the travel newsletter, Jules, but where could agencies find all of these different publications and journals and online that they can actually then target? Where would I find the automotive journal, or where would I find the quick service restaurant journal, or whatever the category is?
Okay, so, and I'm sure Katy would agree, this is what we do as PRs. You Google, you Google and go, you might Google travel agent industry magazine or newsletter. I do it all the time for whatever the industry, pet industry, magazine, newsletter, grooming industry, turf industry. You will find them. You'll find a phone number there. You pick up the phone, you call them and you say, I've got a great story because I've been working with travel agents, and we've got some tips for how they can choose the best agency, and they will go, thank you so much, send it through. That's literally how easy it is.
And do you have the name of the travel agent newsletter?
I don't. I think I did it about
follow it up.
4 years ago, but I think it was the ATA. So I think it's literally the Australian Travel Agency Industry, ATAI. Just go and look it up. They're out there. All industries have them.
And then the other option, obviously, is to subscribe to a media
Database.
service. So I actually work with Tellem. I found them to be exceptional. So yeah, you can build out this in, target vertical publications. So you can be targeting them with your thought leadership pieces, and particularly important around new business and in the pitch process, to be strategically targeting those publications when big decisions are being made by the CMO of, say, a travel brand or whatever it might be, that you're being seen in those vertical publications at the right time.
Now, Katy, I just want to check, that's not paid for comment, is it? You didn't promote that brand.
I did not. It could be anyone. There's
I would say
others out there that are excellent too.
I would say Tellem is brilliant too. I only didn't mention that because Handle Your Own PR also has one. But yeah, absolutely. That's one way, definitely one way of doing it. But I just think that Google is your friend, and don't be scared. These are people who are sitting there going, I can't write a story till someone sends me something.
Okay, so here's another question, and this is great, so keep the questions coming. If there is a hesitation from an agency to want to do PR, as they are concerned that competitors will know what they're doing and think the work will speak for itself, how do you alleviate these concerns?
You go first, Katy. I've got a good answer for that one. But
so how do you alleviate the concerns around competitors knowing what you're doing? Is that?
Yeah, that they're concerned about using PR because it's flagging to their competitors what they're up to.
Well, essentially, if you're going to embark on PR, you are going to be going out to the industry, promoting things like new business wins, new hires. You're going to be telling people who you've got coming on board. That is just the nature of PR. So I think you've got to sort of weigh up. Obviously, I would not be advising that we give away trade secrets in our press releases around the workings of the agency and processes and things that are really the agency's IP. But 100%, if you're going to engage in PR, you will be going out to market and talking about all the great things that you're doing. But I guess the payoff is that the reason that you're doing that is hopefully to try and generate new business and attract exceptional new clients, and become famous for what you're doing, and to show the market that you're experts in the field. So I think there is that sort of way up, and that discussion is really important. But I think the benefits of PR sort of outweigh weigh that, but I wouldn't be suggesting that you go out with your trade secrets. If you have something that you want to keep under wraps, 100% you wouldn't be putting that into a press release.
Thank you. Jules?
I have the opposite, funnily enough, opinion. So for me, your IP is what makes you different to anyone else. So you don't have to give away the whole thing, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but you need to differentiate yourself from your competitors. So two things. One is, I would say, don't go into the industry media, exactly as Katy is saying, with any trade secrets, because you are only talking to your competitors there, really. I would be saying, start thinking about all the people out there that use ad agencies or should be using ad agencies and don't understand the value that they could get from it, don't understand how to choose one, don't understand why they would even use one, don't understand how big their budgets should be before they can go to an agency. Put that sort of content out and put it out into the media. Again, this industry media thing is really powerful, because when you take away the Age, the Herald Sun, the Fin Review and Smart Company, which, you know, let's be honest, a lot of people are reading online anyway, the other place where people are reading is where is their industry media, is what's going on in their industry. They don't care about your advertising agency specialty unless you can explain how it's going to benefit them. So I would say be very generous with your content, be very generous with what it is that you can do, what you know, and how you're different to other people, and go out and tell people why you're different, why you've chosen this area of specialty, why you think it's important having you know, well-known staff and what they might bring to an agency that will make you stand out from other agencies.
Yeah, I get a lot of agencies asking me about how do I get coverage in the trade media, such as, you know, Mumbrella, B&T, Ad News and the like. And I ask them why they want that. And you know, it's because that's their starting point, is to get some sort of awareness or coverage in their own industry. But as from a new business perspective, it always seems ironic that, you know, the concern about flagging it to your competitors, because that's where the competitors are reading in the trade press, where your customers and potential customers are going to be reading other things other than the advertising and media press. So it's an interesting combination. We'll just move on now to more around the ways of, you know, actually implementing. And so, you know, I'll start with you, Katy. If an agency is looking to select a PR professional to work with them, apart from contacting you directly, what do you think they should be looking for? You know, if there is an agency that's saying, you know, we really should raise our profile, how do they go about finding the right PR practitioner?
Well, how they go about finding it, yes, good old Google, but also they could be talking to people within the industry. So we've got a small industry, word of mouth, 100%. That's how I've got a lot of my clients, and also through talking to journalists. So, you know, we mentioned the trade publications, which as well, I will just say, you know, yes, we're talking to agencies when we go into trade media, but I can absolutely say that CMOs and marketers are reading, to your point, Jules, a range of media. Some of those would also be our trade publications. And the reason why our trade publications are so important is because they're the, as you said, Darren, they're the first publications that will support us. They're our industry publications. So a lot of clients do say, oh, I don't want to be talking to, you know, the trade because it's just talking to my competitors. But they are the ones that are going to support us the most with good coverage. And we are also talking to CMOs and potential new clients through that, then to branch out into the AFRs and the Australian and, you know, Smart Company and those sorts of things. But definitely they shouldn't be discredited, and they 100% support our industry. So they are definitely part of the PR plans that I put together for my clients. So in terms of looking for a PR specialist, it's important to note that not all PRs are created the same. So for example, I have knocked back work where it was a particular company that wanted IT media coverage. So I don't have close IT media contacts. I do actually work with another consultant who does specialise in IT PR, so we collaborate on a lot of projects together, and also a consumer PR specialist. But I think it's important to be really clear about where your target audience is and the publications that you want to approach. So I'm very much all about the trade media and marketing sections of the metro papers, and then also business publications as well. So Smart Company, Fast Company, and then the big internationals with some of the big advertising agencies that I work with. But I will 100% put up my hand and say, I don't have a direct line into the IT section of the Australian. My colleague that I work with does, but I think it's really important to get a feel from the PR person that you're looking to engage of, who the contacts that they have, because, it really does come down to relationships. And if you're aiming for IT media, then, you need to go with an IT PR specialist, in my opinion. I think it's really important to sit down with, a couple of or a few PR people and get a real feel for how they work. It's quite a personal relationship when you're sort of, I guess, handing over your brand to someone else to promote it. So it's really important that you've got similar values with that person, that you really outline your business objectives so that they can tailor the PR support in line with those business objectives. And I think, if you've got some good contacts at the trade publications, or even, at the Australian, or any sort of journalist that you know quite well, it would be quite, I think, beneficial to talk to them about the particular PR person that you're looking to engage with, and just find out, from their perspective, how they work. Do they provide, quality stories? All of those sorts of things, just for sort of, add credibility into how they work. And then I think finally is just if you do decide to go with one of the big PR agencies, some of them do B2B PR and do work with other agencies on their PR. I would just make sure that you're going to get the level of support that you might get from, say, a consultant or a smaller agency.
Okay. Great. So, Jules, on the other side, if an agency or business was not looking to get a PR practitioner, but they thought about doing it themselves, what would they need, or what would be the approach that they'd need to take to actually manage your own PR?
Okay, so to manage your own PR, if I was an agency, the first thing that I would be saying to people is break down your target market into smaller markets. So you've got these niches so that you can go out to the media and speak the language that they understand. But in general, as to why you would be doing your own PR, there's a whole heap of benefits. So one is you get to understand how to write in a way that the media will pick up really quickly. So one of the things that I do is I teach you how to write, and I spend a lot of time with putting people together, business owners together with journalists, so you can really pick their brains and understand where the story is, because the story is not about you and your business, without wanting to be rude. It's all about how you can help the people that are their readers or their viewers or their listeners, firstly. Secondly, even though it is fantastic to have relationships with journalists, I still stand by the fact that if you can come up with a great story that you think will resonate with their readers, they won't care that you don't know, that you're not a professional. And I guess I've been teaching people for 10 years now that are getting all sorts of media, from the Fin Review down to Retail World or whatever it might be. So I know that that's true, and I interview them a lot, and they say what we're looking for is the good story. I think what people need to realise now, and what agency owners need to realise, is that there are not lots of journalists out there. So if you are going to do it yourself, write the whole article so that it can be basically cut and pasted into their magazine or into their media outlet. The benefits that you get as well are that your name will be attached to those articles, and they will often give you a credit at the bottom. So you start to get your name out there. The other thing that I'm a big believer in, and it's entirely, I would think, probably the opposite of what Katy would say, is I'm a big believer in any PR is good PR when you're trying to build awareness. So the fact that you want to be in the Fin Review and the big magazines is fabulous, and absolutely keep aiming for them. But those little ones, that little podcast episode you do, the YouTube video interview you do, the one that you do on Ticker TV, or whatever it might be, those sorts of interviews will still do fabulous things for your SEO. And lots of smaller media outlets are very, very good at getting that SEO. So what you really want from your PR, I think, is that if anyone Googles ad agency, you know, automotive, for instance, up comes your name, because there are all these articles underneath your agency's name where you've written it, and you've written it into Ford's magazine, and you've written it about cars in the auto section of a magazine or whatever. And that all of those contribute, whether they're big or small, to just building your awareness and helping your SEO for your website, and just positioning you as knowing your stuff, really.
Yeah. Look, we've got, and it's interesting you should say that, because we've got a terrific question here from an agency. And
Right.
this is the type of challenge that I think a lot of agencies are feeling. So let me read it out, and I'd love to get you both to respond. So say an agency's won an incredible number of awards domestically and internationally, year in and year out since 2011, and one of the founders thinks the awards should speak for themselves, but is still experiencing difficulty in closing new business. How best to amplify the awards and clients' results to drive new business using PR?
Do you want to go first, Katy?
Okay, yeah, sure. So brilliant to be winning all these awards. Wonderful. In terms of leveraging PR from winning those awards, it is getting trickier and trickier. There are so many awards now, and the publications are really having to pick and choose as to which ones that they cover. As well, generally, unless you're winning a Grand Prix or a gold or a titanium or something amazing, you probably won't get the headline. It'll be a wrap up of Australian agencies have won this, that, and the other. So you're included in, you know, a couple of sentences in a media item. So often people, you know, miss those big wins unless the agency itself is doing a good job of promoting those awards through their social channels, through letting clients know. But in terms of PR and trying to leverage the wins on awards, it is a tricky thing to do nowadays. A few years, or even, you know, 3 to 4 years ago, you know, there was a lot more space to cover off awards, and so you could really leverage that and get, you know, big headlines around your particular agency. But often now it's not done that way. So I would say awards are absolutely important, and, you know, clients really do value winning awards because it's on their piece of work. So 100% they're part of, you know, a PR strategy, but they would not be the only thing that you would be doing. So, you know, to my point of talking about other news items you'd be distributing, as Jules said, you'd make sure that you're a thought leader. So you're providing content out, and 100% to those vertical publications. They are not to be discredited in any way. They've worked really well for me with clients that are seeking out sort of, you know, new business in retail spaces, go to Retail World, provide thought leadership there. So awards are important, but they shouldn't be the only thing that you sort of hang your hat on.
Mm. Terrific. Thanks, Katy. Jules?
I think it's fabulous that you've won loads of awards as well, but I don't think they mean anything to anyone other than you and potentially your clients that are in the business. But I would never read a story about an agency who's won an award. I just don't find that interesting in any way. And I think that is probably why, unless it's an incredible award, obviously, but otherwise I think that is why the media aren't picking them up. So to me, what I would be doing is telling the stories behind the awards. So I'd be talking about, say you've won an award for working on some fabulous campaign for a snack food brand, for instance. I'd be telling them the story of how how you started working with this snack food brand, and this was their problem, and this is how you solved it. And what you did was you created this blah, blah, blah. And guess what? You even won an award for it. So it just goes to show you did it really well. But awards are a good indicator of the fact that you've done well in your industry. They definitely indicate to the client that you know what you're talking about. But in terms of the media, there is just zero interest, I think, in any real awards unless you tell the story behind it. And the award is just, you know, a sentence at the bottom of the media release about how this client has built awareness for their brand and sold X number of whatevers or become known for whatever. It's what you've done for them and how you could apply that to another client that is of interest, not really that you've won the award. I don't think that drives any editorial these days. I mean, other than obviously in your industry, and if it was a really amazing award. But I think that the partner in your firm who thinks that you can do PR around the fact that you've won gazillions of awards is deluding himself or herself, because that in itself is not a story, and you can't drive PR on the back of an award. It's just not of interest to the end users.
And look, from a personal perspective of what I've seen, awards are great for agencies recruiting people. It's a great way to get people to come to the agency. But you know, even when you've got client results, you know, and it's great to be able to build a story around that. It's even better if you can get the client to do it as a joint release or a joint story, because then they're getting both sides of the story, and it also looks more like an endorsement from the client because they're participating in sharing that story with the media. I think you both agree. There's a question specifically here for Jules, and that is that, you know, the big reason agencies engage external PR is that they don't have anyone dedicated to do it. While they know it's important, it's the last thing on the list of all the other things, and the result, as a result, it never gets done. So how do you respond to that as far as agencies going about doing their own PR?
Well, firstly, I would 100% agree with them that it's at the bottom of the heap and that the people aren't prioritising it. And I think that's a massive mistake, because I think you can advertise your brand, you can try doing some marketing and direct marketing, but PR is free when you do it yourself, other than paying an agency. It's an endorsement that's more powerful, I think, than any other kind of marketing myself. And so, sorry, I've completely forgotten now that I've waffled on. Darren, just give me the bare bones of that question again.
So the agencies often engage an external PR consultant because they can't, you know, they don't have the time or the resources to do it themselves,
right,
or it gets a low priority, so it doesn't get done. What is it about doing your own PR that actually makes sure it gets done?
I guess, to me, the benefit of you doing your own PR and why you should prioritise it more is, firstly, train someone in the organisation to do it if you want to do it in-house. The benefits of doing it yourself and then going to an agency are, when you go to Katy and say, can you do my PR, you're not going to be unreasonable. And we all in PR hate these clients that come and say, I just want to be in the bin review and I just want to be in Smart Company. Don't get me anything else, because that's not the way PR works. We have to get that story out to a whole lot of different outlets and see who's interested in it for a start. But in terms of prioritising it, I think it's the most powerful form of marketing. I think that really the CEOs should be writing thought leadership articles and getting a junior to send it out to the media. We're talking about, when I work with people, I'm talking about them spending maybe one day, not even half a day a month, say, writing the article, getting it ready, and then someone spending getting it out to the media is easy, whether you use Tellem or handle your own PR or whatever. It's normally just uploading it and pressing a button, and then you need to have someone to do the PR. But really, to say it's at the bottom of the heap is a massive mistake. I mean, I keep seeing people with huge advertising budgets spending it and not carving a small bit off just to do the PR for that client as well, or to consider the unpaid, earned kind of media and what it can do for the client, what it does for the campaign.
Thanks, Jules. Katy, what would be your ideal client as far as the way they work with you? You know, if an agency or a business came to you, what would be the sorts of things that they'd talk about, and what role would performance play in defining a successful outcome?
So the way I work with agencies and what I have, you know, over the years have found that works the best is sort of, you know, when we decide that we're going to work together, that we sit down and we have a pretty intense strategy session, and we put everything out on the table. We talk about business objectives, skeletons in the closet. It's really important to know if you've had bad PR in the past. Oftentimes I haven't been told that. So, you know, good old Google comes out, but yeah, it is really important to just put everything out on the table, be really clear about your business objectives, where you want your business to be going. Do you want to look to do, international expansion? Are you looking to perhaps have your agency acquired by, a big holding company? Obviously, the PR strategies that we would put together would be very different based on those business objectives. So really important to be open and honest, and also to map out those, the wish lists. So if you do want to be featured in Forbes or Fast Company or whatever it might be, highlight those from the start so that we can, work together and maybe build to that, but definitely have that as a really core goal in mind to be working towards. Where I work with, a range of different agencies, so independents to sort of, production companies, and then, big global agencies that have, global comms teams. Where that works really, really well is being connected with the global comms leads in each of the markets, so that we can work together and we can leverage the contacts that they might have at the big publications like Creativity, Ad Age, Fast Company, and leverage those contacts so that we can get our coverage featured over in the US publications, where, that's obviously gold for an advertising agency to get in Creativity and Ad Age. And whilst we can do that from here, it's always very handy to have someone on the ground there that's got the relationships that we have here with our media over there. It's also very, very helpful to have a marketing person. So not all agencies have that role, but where they do, we can work incredibly well together. So, the PR plan is in line with the marketing objectives, filtering back to the business objectives. You have that person in there who is, bossing people around and making sure you get all the work, the credits pulled together, tapping that person on the shoulder to remind them about their opinion piece that's due. I'm also very good at doing that. I'm very bossy, and I make sure that my clients stick to timelines, and we get things done that we've set out for our action timeline for the month or fortnightly in between our WIP meetings. But it is really great to have someone in the agency who is on board and helping you to pull things together. I've just lost my train of thought now. Now I am referring to my notes. I would also say it's really important to spread the load across the agency. So unless I'm working with a particular individual to boost their profile, where it works really well is when you're sitting down with the leadership team and you identify those key people within the agency who are experts and exceptional in what they do. And so generally we will build out topics and themes, and we'll identify the people who feel confident and who are exceptional in those areas to provide thought leadership that we can then pitch through to media, or we can use on their, their various channels. So it shouldn't come down to one particular person. Where we can spread the load, it means that we can be getting out a raft of content, but it's split against, say 5 in the leadership team, and then, various other people across the agency. So yeah, they're sort of the key things that I find to work the best. But yes, definitely honesty and being open. And I also always recommend a 3-month trial as well. Just so, as I said, it's a really personal relationship, and we want to make sure that we work together really well. Generally, it works out, but you just want to make sure that when you are investing in PR, you're also adding to your workload, because we're only as good as the content that we get. So you just need to work out whether you have the capacity to do that. I will push you and, set timelines, but it's really important to sort of reassess that after, say, a 3-month timeline.
Thanks, Katy. Jules, there's another question specifically for you. Is there a danger if you do your own PR, you won't do it correctly, / the journalist does not know you, that you will annoy journalists and they won't bother with your story? Basically, is there a danger you'll cock it up?
Yeah. And I think that is everyone's biggest fear, actually. It's not just agency owners. And look, I've been doing it for 10 years. I've worked with quite a few agencies and loads of business owners, and I don't think anyone has cocked it up. But you just need to be careful what you're pushing out there. If you're going to push out stuff that's potentially going to put you into crisis, then you definitely want a PR agency to do it. If you're controversial, if you've had bad publicity in the past, etc., then I would get an expert to help you. But in general, I would say everyone can do it. I don't think the chances are that you'll piss off a journalist And if they do, it's one journalist. There's plenty of others you can go to. I've got a great story about an agency owner that I want to tell. Can I have 2 more minutes, Darren? Okay, so there is a branding agency in Sydney that I have been working with the CEO, and she's just such a good example of how well it can work. So she writes really well. She had some great ideas for angles. We spent a couple of days with journalists where the journalist was saying to her, no, that's rubbish. That's not a story at all. This is a story. And because you guys are all in communication, you get that pretty quickly. So my experience is that, you know, working with you guys, you're already halfway there. What this woman did and what I explained to her to do was to start writing, as we've been talking about, to these verticals, to the different industries. And I just want to give you an example of what's happened to her as a result. So she's done her own PR for 6 months. She's sending a media release out roughly once every 2 weeks. What she's ended up doing, for example, is she identified that she wanted to get to personal trainers and gyms as being people who don't brand very well. So she wrote an article about the importance of branding for gym owners and personal trainers, sent it to Oxygen magazine, which, let me just say, is a glossy magazine for consumers, you would think. And what happened was they loved it so much they ran a double-page spread, and they've asked her to do a double-page spread every month in the magazine around branding. So that just gives you an example. The other thing is she's become a regular contributor to the Shaker. She has now, once you master the art of how to do PR, the next art is to write specifically for an industry. And you can write a general media release and then tweak it for the industry. So she's going out to these journalists and saying, listen, if you want me to rewrite it, I can tweak it slightly for your market. And she said 9 times out of 10, they come back and say, yes, please do that. And as a result, she's getting this same article picked up multiple times. The latest one, which was 2 weeks ago, was 9 publications picked up the article around retail in COVID. So really, you're all experts at what you do. You know your industry. You know the things that you can do that will really make a difference. Go out and tell people.
I'm so glad that's a positive story, because the one I was going to tell is the agency CEO who used to phone up the trade journalists, the usual trade journalists, and say, I've got an exclusive for you, but they used to phone all the journalists.
Oh.
Huge mistake.
And they don't realise that they all actually often socialise together. I think there used to be a regular get-together of all the journalists, so they quickly became blackballed.
Yeah, now that is one thing you can do. If you offer an exclusive and you don't really give them the exclusive, and you've sent it out to 5 people, and you have somebody at The Age that will do the story and someone at the Herald Sun that does the story, and you don't take it away from one of them, you will never get featured in either newspaper again. And I would say the same for Sunrise and the Today Show. I'd say the same for A Current Affair and what used to be Today Tonight. There are certain media that literally are butting head to head, and you cannot play the game or you will fall in between the 2 stools. So you absolutely do need to think about where you're going. And part of the reason for that, by the way, is that the news media will write the story for you. So with the news media, there is a journalist who's going to invest time. You're going to give them an idea. They're going to put your content in, and they're going to get that story balanced by going to other people. So it takes them time. So they get super pissed off if they put all that time and effort into it, and then somebody else beats them to it or runs the same story.
Whereas, at the same time on the same day.
At the same time on the same day. And we see it all the time. We see it in the weekend magazines and newspapers all the time as well. So that is what they hate. And that's why if you can write the story for them, give it to them, and then write another story and send it to someone else or tweak it slightly for a different market, then the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Much better.
Okay, so what I want to do there now is just put a pause, because we have a poll for our attendees, and I'm just going to make the poll go live. It's going to ask 2 questions which are very similar, and that is, which do you believe, based on the discussion, is the best approach for agencies implementing a public relations strategy? And then which would be the best approach for you and your agency to implement your public relations? So they're now out,
I got it as well.
If you can actually respond to that.
Well, obviously, I'm going to skew the answers by answering.
You can only answer once. Come on, everyone, answer the poll. Here we go.
Pressure's on, Jules.
Go on, Katy, get your answer. You've
Get
got to
your
vote
answers
for
in,
yourself.
I
Even
did.
politicians vote for
I
I voted
themselves.
for myself in like 2 seconds.
Excellent.
And
Doing
can
my
I also
PR.
can I also just say, just before we finish, that even though we're talking about agency versus DIY, I actually think they're really complementary. And I personally think that if you were to do your own PR, understand how it works, understand the stories that will work, and how PR agencies work, and how friggin' hard it is to get some of that stuff into the media for free, then when you go to an agency because you've run out of time and you need someone to do it, you're going to be reasonable, you're going to have good expectations, and you're going to be able to work with that PR person or that agency to get the best results, rather than just demanding stuff that is almost impossible sometimes to get.
Okay, I'm going to share the results, and I think there's quite an interesting lesson here, because based on the discussion today, the majority have voted for getting a professional, but it's
Yes.
much closer for when it applies to themselves. So I'm sharing the results now.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, so look, a really interesting result
Isn't
there,
that,
and
we need
thank
to
you
do this
everyone for
again.
participating. We'll just go back to sharing. Okay. So look, we'll have to wrap it up there, and I want to thank both of you. There's a recording of this workshop will be available. The best way is to make sure you subscribe at trinityp3.com/subscribe, because that way you'll get all the updates of all of our webinars and all of our content that we're producing. There are future webinars like this one. There's All in This Together, Marketing Management in a Recession, and that's actually quite late in the day. That's going to be at 6 p.m. Australia time, because we're also going to have people right across Europe and Asia joining in that one. And then we've got another one, Media Investment in a Recession, Performance or Transparency or Both. And they're the first one's on June 24th and then July 1st. So if you go to trinityp3.com/business-events, you'll be able to see those. Look, thank you for joining us. I'd really like to thank you, Katy, and you, Jules, for participating, taking this on in the spirit that it was given. I think it was incredibly informative, but it was also enjoyable and entertaining. Your nerves didn't show at all. And I think as PR professionals, you equipped yourself well on today's webinar. So thanks very much. For everyone else, thank you, and we'll be in touch with more topics coming up soon. Have a great day.